Dearly beloved, we are gathered here on this cloudy day to remember and to discuss why I hate Sarah J Maas so much. Did that rhyme? We need to talk Crescent City, guys. Okay, I'm too hot, I can't do this anymore. I have no plan for this video because I didn't think that this video would ever exist. I intended to make a reading vlog of my experience reading the new book by an author who I genuinely didn't like. If you are not new to this channel, it is no secret to you that I didn't like the Throne of Glass series. I didn't like the direction that Sarah J Maas took it in when she introduced whatever his face was. He was boring when she introduced that character, so I stopped reading the series. And I also really didn't like A Court of Thorns and Roses. After I finished A Court of Thorns and Roses, I generally decided that I was going to stop reading Sarah J Maas altogether because her writing style just wasn't for me. I didn't like what she was doing with plots. I didn't like really where her head was at when she was writing, and that was totally on me and on my taste, although I did find some of her writing really cringy. And a lot of it, especially with A Court of Thorns and Roses, I wasn't sure who her target audience was. Was it children? Was it teenagers? Was it adults? It just seemed like none of them, but all of them at the same time. Stop. Okay, the jacket has to go. I feel like people who haven't read the book would clearly not get the reference with the jacket anyway, so we're just gonna start again with that. So yes, I acquired the beautiful Crescent City Ignore the Nails. I haven't took my nail varnish off. And even though I had said that I really didn't want to read anything by Sarah J Maas again, the cover art totally had me sold. I basically wanted this book because I knew that it would look good on my shelves, and I know that's like totally stupid and vain, but that's why I added it to my Amazon wishlist. And I put it on my Amazon wishlist for a reason, and that was because I never actually thought that I would buy it. Little did I know that my friend had access to my Amazon wishlist and purchased this as a gift for me. And when it came and when I saw the cover art, I was immediately excited by this book. But in the back of my mind, I know who I am. I know that I don't like Sarah J Maas. I am not a Sarah J Maas fan. And I was sort of expecting the same from this book as I was from the other ones. But at least I'd have a beautiful, you know, looking book to look at. Then I opened it, and then at the front, it talks to you about the different creatures that are in this world. And it talks about shifters, humans, witches, angels, fae, elementals, sprites, river spirits, water beasts, nymphs, demons, reapers, wraiths, vampires, dragons, necromancers. And I realised something. That this is a fleshed out book and that this is a long book and there's a lot to it. So that piqued my interest. So I was a little bit excited. I wanted to finish what I was reading straight away so that I could actually discover what the heck all the rave was about. It's time. I am finally picking this up. I am excited, but I'm also a little bit scared, purely because I've said this before, me and Sarah J Maas's works don't really correlate. I really liked the first two books in the Throne of Glass series, but then after that I thought it really fell apart and I was really mad at her for the decisions that she took with the series. I know some of it is very well received, but I personally really didn't like it now. And when I was like in my early 20s, I was really personally offended by that. And then a couple of years ago, I read A Court of Thorns and Roses, which I really didn't like. I didn't like the smuttiness of it. I didn't feel like there was a good balance between the level of I felt like, basically, what I'm trying to say is, I felt like the story was written for teenagers, but the writing was made for adults. It was very sexual, but I didn't feel like the story, I felt like it was very immature. So, this book is a new adult book. I'm going to be reading this. I'm nervous, because I could be the only person on the internet apparently that doesn't like this book. I'm nervous about the level of smuttiness in it. I have never read a book that's very graphic, but like I've said before, I've got my big girl pants on and I'm ready for some, I was going to say the C-O-C-K word there and really couldn't bring myself to do it. I swear to God, the inside of the book gives me shivers every time I open it. Like, How stunning. Oh my god, look at that, man. If this is a 5-star read, I'm getting that tattooed. I'm just putting that out there. And this is where the reading vlog starts to go downhill. So I expect, and this is what my expectations were from this book, was that I would make a reading vlog and it would just be me for 10 minutes straight cringing about the graphicness of this book, because all anybody is talking about is how graphic this is and how explicit it is, and oh, all these kinks of Sarah J Maas. I knew nothing else about the book other than that this book might have adult content in, which, I'm sorry, can we just take a moment, because this book barely has any adult content in. As someone who cringes reading like little teenage kissing scenes, this really, honestly, I don't know what all the fuss was about. We should stop talking about how Sarah J Maas has written an explicit book and talk about how Sarah J Maas has written a good book. And not just a good book, a book where, when I finished it, I haven't read anything since, because I genuinely think I will never read a good book again, so what is the point of reading a book again? What if I never read a book as good as that ever again? That could happen. And I know that sounds dramatic, but that's genuinely how I felt. Here's a picture of me crying when I finished it, because I felt like I'd never read anything good again. So why am I here telling you that I don't like Sarah J Maas, but I enjoyed this book? When I was deciding whether or not I would want to read this book or add it to my Amazon wishlist because I was so intrigued by the cover, I had a look on Goodreads. There's a few people on Goodreads that I've followed purely because they also didn't like Sarah J Maas books, and I felt like their recommendations would be very good for books. Not a lot of people don't like Sarah J Maas. Sarah J Maas is sort of like a Booktube goddess. So I took it that I had quite specific and picky tastes in reading, hence why I followed these people for suggestions. And every single one of them started their reviews with, I don't know what I was expecting to be different in this book. I don't know why I even picked this up. I obviously wasn't going to like it because it's Sarah J Maas, blah, 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 blah. So I decided, look, if they don't like it, the chances of me liking it are very slim. It's clearly just another Sarah J Maas. And it is another Sarah J Maas, but it is a formula that works. This is 800 pages of pure fleshed out, real world, real society with real problems, with characters that are absolutely amazing. I really honestly want to buy some posters of like Bryce concept art and I can't pronounce it, it's okay, the names in this are just too weird to pronounce, okay? But some of the character art I really want is like posters on my wall now, because I'm honestly such a fangirl. But we're getting a little bit off topic here. Let's rein it in. This book took me on a journey. No, bad things are happening. No, thank you. From the very get-go, I knew that this book was different. This is an 800-page novel. And it's very, very long and it's very wordy. Honestly, it's like reading the Bible when you're reading this. The pages are so thin. And this took me about 2 weeks to read because I read every single word. And if I thought that I had missed something, I went back and started it all over again, like the chapter I was reading, and reading it all over again. Because I didn't want to miss anything. And for me, that's really rare. I do have a habit of sort of skimming paragraphs where I just don't find whatever's going on very interesting and want to move on sort of like the next scene. But in this, I think this is the first book, apart from the Harry Potter series, which I've actually read every single word. So we have the first 200 pages, and the first 200 pages is an absolute information dump. I am nearly a quarter of the way through Crescent City, and I just thought I'd give you some updates about my thoughts on it. Yes, I am in bed with a massive glass of gin, which is honestly bigger than my head, but you can't come for me in the comments because previously, yes, it was socially unacceptable to drink a large glass of gin in bed, but now I'm saving someone's auntie. Sarah J Maas's world building has definitely come a long way. A lot of people have said that they think Sarah J Maas has regressed with this book, but honestly I think that she's come so far, and I truly don't understand the criticism towards this book. And the first 150 pages of this book is definitely an information dump. It's trying to get across the world to you so that you understand going forward. And a lot of the times it felt like a very, very slow slog, but because it was so immersive and so different to anything that I've ever read before, I read every single word of it and enjoyed it. I'm not even going to try and attempt to explain the politics and the society of this book because it is just so unique and so in-depth It took me 150 pages to actually get into plot, and that's because it's so complicated, the world building. When I drink out this glass, it goes over my eyebrows, watch. I do predict that this is going to be a 5-star read. I totally regret saying that I would get a tattoo of the cover art if this was a 5-star read, because I honestly didn't expect it to. We are introduced to most of the main characters, if not all of them. We are introduced to the world, which is Crescent City. It is a city where all of these previously mentioned magical creatures and humans live alongside each other in a very modern city. It's a city with a full society for all of these magical beings and humans. But I find it so hard to find a book where it introduces magical beings in society but doesn't sort of flesh out the actual way that these people live together in harmony. So for example, the city has its own like government system and political system, but it's not plain across the board. The angels and the fae all have different sort of societal governance and rules that they must all stick to. Hence why this book is 800 pages, because there is just so much detail in this, but it's not dull, it's really interesting and fun. A couple of times in the first 200 pages I was like, I don't know if I can possibly retain this much information, and it was making it really slow for me to read because I could only read a couple of chapters at the time to think about what I'd actually read. I was talking to my best friend at the time who got me the book, and I was saying, look, this is really slow for me. I'm enjoying it, but it's slow. And she said, you know, once you get past the 200 page mark, this book will just absolutely fly by. And it did. Once I got past the 200 page mark where the plot really started ramping up, I found it really easy to read. We were still being introduced to a lot of information along the way. But once the plot actually started, it was so good. Plot twists in this book I genuinely didn't see coming. Not okay. I am not okay. I am not okay. I am not okay. There was moments where I was so happy for the main characters. And there was also moments which I just cried. If you haven't read this book, if you have it and don't know much about it, or if you're not sure if you want to pick it up, if you're in the minority like me and thought that you're a Sarah J Maas hater, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about this without spoiling it for you. So the main character is Bryce, and at the start of the novel, she is 23 years old. She works in an art gallery and the art gallery is owned by a sorceress who's sort of turned to the dark side a little bit, but the main character works there because it's a stable job for her, and for her it's more money than what she thinks she should be earning as according to society, because she is a half fae, half human. And that was something that I had a little bit of like a problem with going into this book, because we've seen that from Sarah J Maas before, so I thought that we would see a reoccurrence of the same issues that I have with Sarah J Maas novels, but we don't. That's where the similarities stop. This is a new adult novel, which I really loved, because new adult fantasy is very few and far between. So our main character, Bryce, who is 23, she is a party girl. She goes to the clubs, she does some drinking, she does some illicit activities, but she's enjoying life. She's young and she's making lots of money. And she has a best friend called Danica. Danica is a werewolf, but she's also sort of like werewolf royalty, which gives her a certain standing in society which Bryce doesn't have, being of the lowly half fae, half human variety. But her and Danica have been best friends for many years now. They met in college and they continue to live together and party together. Danica is part of sort of like a police group and has been investigating a group of human rebels who want to sort of kill magical beings, and Bryce knows this, and she knows the overall risk to Danica, but Danica is so powerful that she thinks every time Danica goes to work she'll be okay because she can handle her own against the humans. We're also introduced to some other really cool friends. We have Fury and Juniper as well. Fury is of an unknown sort of magical allegiance. Even her friends don't really know who she is. She's just very mysterious. And that's what I really like about this character, because even though throughout all of this, nothing is given away about who she actually is. All they know is that she has access to some of the very high important meetings. They think that she might be an assassin, but they don't know where her allegiance lies. But regardless, she is a friend. And we also have Juniper, who is, I believe she's a fawn, like a half deer, half human, like a deer animal creature oid thing. I'm sorry for the terrible descriptions. And she is seen to be more of like timid. She's a professional dancer, which is something that Bryce really doesn't like. She's quite jealous of because that's what she wants to do. And one night, there's lots of partying and drinking and, you know, good times going on. And one of Bryce's friends ends up being murdered. This sends her on a journey to discover who murdered her best friend, along with an angel who is sort of like the male romantic interest, but he himself is such a badass, I swear. And his storyline, like the whole world and backstory that Sarah J Maas has invented, is so good. He is an angel who is now a slave to sort of their angel governance, because a couple of 100 years ago he tried to rebel against the angels in power, and there was a whole war and his side lost. So he now has to kill 2,000 or odd people that the governor wants to get rid of so that he can make up for the lives that he had taken during this war. Only once he's done that will he be offered his freedom. So they team up and they go off and try to solve this murder. And there's also another side story of a magical artifact has gone missing, and they think that it might have something to do with the friend's murder. Who knows, it could be something totally different. So that's all I'm going to say about the book, because the rest of it is genuinely best not knowing. Just know this when I tell you, this is the best book that I've ever read. This is the most fun I've ever had reading a book. I actually might just quit Booktube right now, because I don't think I ever want to read another book again until the second one comes out, which apparently is like a year and a half away. See, I'm still a Sarah J Maas hater because she's not giving me what I need, and I need the second book right now. This is definitely Sarah J Maas territory. This reads like, if you just put this novel in front of me, I would know exactly who wrote this without seeing any of like the author notes, because it reads like a Sarah J Maas novel. The main character is basically the same character that was in the Throne of Glass series, but this is peak Sarah J Maas. I hope it's not, because I hope that she can surprise me and turn out some more amazing things. But this is Sarah J Maas's formula coming together. It's grown up and it's ready to take on the world. I don't know where the Sarah J Maas fan club is, but someone sign me up, because I'm now a member. I am no longer someone that doesn't like Sarah J Maas. I love it. I love this book so much. I'm so pleased that I love it as well, because I very rarely, I can't think of another author where I would just be like, I'm not buying their books because I don't like them. Even though I don't like to go on about it, because, you know, that's my personal taste. That's not something against her. I think she's great at writing books and getting people into reading. I just didn't enjoy the books, so I didn't want to buy them. So I'm pleased that I've had my opinion of this author changed as well. So yes, thank you for coming to my TED Talk on why I now stan Sarah J Maas. If you haven't read this book, I highly encourage you to read this book. But can I also ask that we change the narrative on this book from being, oh, it's so naughty, to this has so much depth, this has so much detail, this is so well written, it's such a fun adventure, and it's also the needed addition to new adult that we've been needing for so long, because new adult fantasy is like, where is it? It's just nowhere. If you would like to see me do a spoilery discussion about the plot and how I felt about certain plot things and what I expect from the second book, please let me know in the comments. I just wasn't sure how many of you had actually read the book, and I just wanted to come on here and encourage you to do so. But I do have a lot of theories about what we might see in the next book, or what I would personally like to see in the next book. I just really hope that the standard stays high and she doesn't introduce some more characters later on, because that's what I didn't like about the last ones. But I hope we're staying safe and staying sane in lockdown. I was staying safe and sane until I read this book, and now I can't read any more books because nothing is good now and my life is a lie. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. Share this video and some more of my other videos if you'd like, as it would support the channel. And come and find me on Twitter and tell me what you thought of the book too. I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.